evening and welcome. You're watching Bizz Talk on your channel of choice. And my name is Sinazo January. Now, this is a show where I bring you nothing but the best of the business sector in and around the Eastern Cape. And as usual, this episode is no different. And if you are joining me right now, I am joined by the amazing Michelle Brown. Michelle, thank you for joining me today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Sinazo.
Now, before we do get started, just quickly introduce yourself for people who don't know you. Let them know who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Michelle Brown. I've been with my own PR company since February 1988. So that's almost 36 years next year. Always in Nelson Mandela Bay, proud to be from Nelson Mandela Bay, but obviously extending my reach nationally and sometimes internationally.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you've had the experience of working with so many entrepreneurs, but what would you say are some of the key challenges that entrepreneurs face, especially now in 2023?
Well, let's define that. Are we talking about female or male entrepreneurs? Because there's different challenges.
Yeah, let's go with females.
Seeing it's Women's Month.
Yes.
I think having been in the business for 35 years on my own and before that for corporates, I think women, even though it's 2023, we still have to fight hard to be taken seriously and to be respected. And it's something that I feel very strongly about. So when I am considered to be invisible, as it were, in a meeting, in a venue, in a room, I make my voice heard. And it's something that I have always taught my 32-year-old daughter, who lives overseas, never, ever stop making your voice heard.
Which is very important as a woman, Now, we all know that access to information has always been such a great challenge. But you're also one of the people that give out that information as well for young leaders. But do you think we're getting somewhere in changing that narrative now, the whole access to information?
I think we are. I think sometimes we are restricted and limited, obviously with various acts of confidentiality. But I think we are, and I think that as experienced business people and entrepreneurs, we need to really take a stand and share with those who are rising up the ladder. Because we rose up the ladder too, you know, at the beginning of our careers. And I think it's important that we don't forget that, and that as we are still climbing, because I'm not sure we ever get to the top, we actually put our hand out behind us on that ladder and reach out and pull someone up, because we must never forget where we started.
Yeah, which is so true. Now, let's talk about your involvement with the Business Chamber. What is your involvement with the Business Chamber?
Well, I'm a member and have been for a long time. But beginning of last year, 2022, I met with Denise van Heusteen, the CEO, and said, you know, we need to align or collaborate or partner for a women's circle, where we host 4 quarterly workshops a year for women, whether they are young entrepreneurs like yourself or older corporate women or in between, students, postgrads. And so they are partnering with us, and that is still going today. So we run 4 quarterly workshops plus a coffee connect every quarter, where we invite 20 women to join us for coffee, sponsored by Masterton's. And we network, because like we were talking about, you know, initially before we went on air, it's all about networking. If you want to grow your reach, expand your business, you have to network. If you're too shy and too scared, I get that. But you have to force yourself to step up.
Now, you guys host these every quarterly.
We do.
How's the outcome been ever since you guys began?
Beyond amazing. In fact, last week, the 1st of August, we had this quarter one. Always have it at the Beach Hotel, which is our venue sponsor. And in fact, our theme was experience versus expectation. So those experienced women in business, not verse, because it's not a competition, but then those, we had our speaker was a postgrad student, also Sinazo, from the university, and she spoke about what her expectations are of the workplace.
Yes.
And then our speaker, who's the MD of Nashua, she spoke from her experience in the workplace. So we have incredible networking at those workshops.
Yeah, you do, because I have your sessions and they are amazing, and you guys always have these women who have amazing stories as well. But which story do you think still stands out for you at the moment, because you come across so many amazing women with different stories, but just give us one.
Not necessarily from the workshops, right? Just generally over the 35 years. I have to say that, and I'm not saying this to name drop, but having worked for Oprah Winfrey in California a number of years ago, her story still resonates with me. And one of the things she said at that function where I was working, never, ever forget where you started, never forget where you come from, because if you do forget that, you will put yourself on a pedestal and that pedestal will be knocked down.
Okay, that is very inspiring also. I'm such an Oprah Winfrey fan. It's crazy. So the fact that you've actually had the opportunity to work with her is also like so inspiring. But I just wanted to find out, because you've built such a big brand, 35 years of experience, has this always been your goal?
Absolutely.
Really?
Since I matriculated in Nelson Mandela Bay, I've always wanted to organize. I've always wanted, I suppose I'm kind of a head girl type. Always wanted to be in charge. But there's some things you can't be in charge of, and there's some things you can't be in control of. For example, COVID and lockdown. That taught us that we could not be in charge, and we had to let something else be in charge of us, and then let it go. And when the time was right, in South Africa at the World Cup we had Kenako, it is time. Well, there is a time for everything, and those 2 years of lockdown have certainly taught me, and I'm sure many others, there is a time, there is a season. And sometimes we can't be in charge. But I've always been someone who loves engaging with people, mentoring others, sharing my story, sharing my network, sharing my experience. What's the point of keeping it to yourself?
Exactly.
Where's the legacy then?
Exactly.
Really? So I think I've always been like that. Drama queen.
Yes. I see it.
Oh, thank you, Sinazo, for agreeing with me. Okay,
right now we're going to take a quick ad break, but we'll be back with more right here in studio with Michelle Brown, so stay tuned. And welcome back from the ad break. If you are joining me right now in studio, I am joined by Michelle Brown. Now, off air, we were talking about the importance of mentorship. What are your views about that? How important is it to mentor and being mentored as an entrepreneur?
I think an entrepreneur is essentially quite a lonely road because you're not within a corporate structure. So, in a corporate structure, you can bounce ideas, you can have meetings. As an entrepreneur, it's pretty lonely. So to mentor others, as I said earlier, for me is about sharing and about leaving a legacy. When I was a postgrad student, it was very difficult to get a mentor. And I promised myself that I would mentor others. And also then 35 years into the game in my own business, but before that in corporate, I still feel I need to be mentored. Are we ever too old to learn? I don't think so. So Adrian Gardner, who is the CEO or the chairman of the Mantis Group, he was my mentor 35 years ago and my first corporate client. He is still my corporate client 35 years on, but he's a friend and he has evolved to be my mentor still. And I think we must be open to mentorship. Just because we've been in the game for 35 years certainly doesn't mean we know it all. Do we ever know it all? I don't think so.
Which is so true. I think it is important to have a mentor. And really, you don't stop, you don't stop learning as you grow older. So what you're saying really does make sense. Now, you have been around forever, but tell me about the injustices that you've had encountered through your journey in building your brand? Because I can only imagine, as such an outspoken female, so I can imagine the injustices that you've had to encounter. So just talk about that.
So Nazo, we all encounter injustices. Yes. Some of them are more serious than others. I think for me, it's been that as a woman in business, I've sometimes, not often, but sometimes I feel like I'm invisible in a room, in a meeting, in a board meeting, at an event. I don't like to be invisible for the simple reason, not because I think I'm special, but I don't like to be invisible because I'm female. And so that, for me, has been an injustice. But you know what? We step up. We make our voices heard, as I've said. But, we also have to be respectful of others if we want respect.
Yes.
I am very conscious of that, but we have to stand our ground. And we have to have integrity and principles and stand by those, come what may, to be taken seriously. And I will not remain silent.
Yes.
If I feel that I am being considered invisible because I'm female. That I won't do. And sadly, in 2023, it still happens.
It is. It's still a problem. A lot of females face those challenges, even in this day and age. But you spoke about your mentor. Let's talk about, at least give me 3 things or people that have inspired you and continue to inspire you within, your work.
Well, Adrian Gardner, for one, who is still my mentor 35 years on. I think that my late mom was definitely a mentor because she was very much like me and was very highly regarded within the organization that she worked for many years, both globally and nationally. So she definitely was a mentor, still today, even though she's passed. But I think that for me, another mentor would be someone like Andy Kawa, who has been through incredible injustice and hardship and still remains the most wonderful woman to know and to work with, but is fighting for her right for, closure.
Yes.
And so for me, the fact that 13 years on since her incident, she's still fighting for that right, because it is her right and she deserves it. For me, that's part of her being a mentor to me. Yeah, for sure.
I love that. And also I feel like it's so crazy and it's amazing that you actually cross paths with so many amazing women with all these amazing inspirational stories as well. But let's talk about bridging the gap between the public and private sector. Do you think we're making progress in that regard, especially in the Nelson Mandela Bay?
I think we are. I think it's a process.
Yes.
I think it's a journey. I think it's not going to happen overnight. I think young people coming into the process have this idea that it's going to be a 24-hour journey.
Yes.
It's not. It's still continuing. Yeah. And if you make peace with that and you're comfortable with that it is a journey and a process, then you will go with the journey.
Yeah.
And eventually things will happen. Kanako, it's time. There's a season, there's a reason, there's a time. And so sometimes you just have to let that journey run. And then there will be an end to the journey. You know what I mean?
Definitely there will be change. But you're such an inspiring person in general. Like, you always have something positive to say, to motivate people around you. But what would you advise a young woman who wants to be another Michelle Brown and who looks up to you, because you're such an amazing woman, especially now that it's Women's Month. So you're one of the women that I look up to as well. So what would you advise a young woman?
I think I would, so now I have a daughter of 32. So for me, let me tell you what I would tell her. Do not stay silent on principles and issues that are important to you. Stand your ground, but not be aggressive, assertive. As we know, there's a huge difference. And again, be respectful of others, show respect. set a good example to others. If you want people to follow you, you have to set a good example.
Yes.
Otherwise, why would they do so? And always leave a legacy. I think that's really important to me. I want to leave a legacy, particularly to my daughter.
Yeah.
Of course, to my son, but it's different. We're talking Women's Month. We're talking women. Certainly to my daughter.
Yeah. She's got big shoes to fill.
She's filling them.
That is great. Now, before I do let you go, how can people contact you if anyone is seeking any mentorship opportunities?
I think the mentorship opportunities, as we discussed a little bit off air, there are two mentor programs. The one is through the Business Chamber, the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Chamber. If they go onto the Facebook page, they will see that there is an application process. And I think it closes this week. In fact, tomorrow, the 8th. So they need to get their applications in. They need to be 20 to 25 years old, having been in business for 1 year already. Those are the two major criteria. And then we run one, I run one with Yo Media, the boys from Yo Media, and we are going to open ours, it should be this month or next month. Also, 1 hour a month mentorship at no cost for 3 months.
Wow.
But they have to apply. And they go onto the Yo Media Facebook page or Instagram page, and they look out for the opening of the applications.
Michelle, thank you so much for taking time to do this interview. And if you are looking for any mentorship programs, please do check out the Facebook pages. Just go to Yo Media and as well as the Business Chamber pages, and then find out that information for any opportunities. But unfortunately, that is all we have for Michelle. But do stay tuned because we still have more for you. And welcome back from the ad break. If you were joining me right now, earlier on, we had a conversation with Michelle Brown, which is a very interesting conversation. But right now, though, we're about to look at the top 8 women in business in South Africa. And this is in light, of course, of Women's Month. There are many inspiring businesswomen in South Africa who have disrupted and innovated various industries. While we always hear about South African male business leaders, female business women are often overlooked. Now we're going to have our top 8 women in business. And first off, we have Wendy Applebaum with an estimated net worth of around 2.6 billion rand. Wendy is one of the most successful businesswomen in South Africa. She became a director of Liberty Investors relatively earlier on in her career, and now acts as the chairperson of a wine estate. Among titles, she was recognized as one of the top female entrepreneurs in the world in 2006. And then next off, we have Arlene Mulder, who is the leading entrepreneur and innovator in Africa's tech startup space. She won the Forbes Women Africa Technology and Innovation Award in 2019 and has also worked as a global ambassador of She Loves Tech. Mulder also founded She Loves Code, a not-for-profit organization focused on advancing South Africa's digital education space. And next up, we have Dineo Leoma, who co-founded Deep Medical Therapeutics, Inc. iTech, and Cape Biotechnologies, 3 innovative companies in the biotechnology space. She's also been nominated as one of the Forbes Women Africa's top 20 wealth creators. And next up, we have Niele Nkolisi, another innovative entrepreneur in the biotechnology space. She was named the top female innovator in Africa in 2016 and 18 by the World Economic Forum. And up next, we have Bridget Khadebe. Bridget Khadebe started her career as a manager of individual shaft mining operations. She has excelled in her career path since then and went on to start the Kumau mining firm in 1980, which has been a major success over the years. And up next, we have Maylene Keister Nduli, and she is the founder of African Steel Holdings, a company she started when the steel industry in South Africa was barely surviving. Today, African Steel Holdings is a leader in the raw, manufactured, and fabricated steel industry. And then we have Sarah Collins. When it comes to business, rather, women in South Africa, Sarah Collins is one of the most exciting entrepreneurs focused on social activism. She started a company focused on providing on empowering and sustainable solutions for rural African communities. This is achieved through her heat retention cooker that does not use any electricity. And then up next, last and certainly not least, we have Dr. Judy Dlamini, and she is the owner and executive chair of Mbekani Group, a company that houses various investments and operational businesses. This includes Jimmy Choo. Dr. Dlamini also acts as the chancellor of Wits University. Before starting her own entrepreneurial venture, Dr. Dlamini was the senior manager for HSBC South Africa. Being one of the most successful businesswomen in South Africa, she has an estimated net worth of 124,000 million rand. And there you have it, your top 8 women in business in South Africa. Now, if you joined us on today's episode, we are celebrating Women's Month, and that was the top 8 women that we are also shedding light on, just to celebrate all women in business. But we shall keep this moving right along right through the month, interviewing and talking to, as well as profiling women in business right here in the Nelson Mandela Bay. But unfortunately, that is all that we have for you for tonight's episode of Bizz Talk. But please do join me next week, same place, same time, right here on channel 260 with myself, Sinazo January. But for now, it is good night.